blame. Wendigo.
All right. There we go. Got a lot of shit to cover. Not a whole lot of time to get through it today. Peace and light, everybody checking in real early, man. I see everybody over here in the comments checking in super early. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. And what I'm noticing, it be the same people coming back with the knowledge, which is great. And all y'all disciples. The last video, I don't know what the fuck happened. Internet dropped. I don't know what happened. But they cut my feed. Video got deleted. I'm not sure what happened on that last video. I was on this yesterday, I think. Day before yesterday. I came on late and I'm not sure. But we back here though. And we're gonna deal with a couple things about the Atlantic slave trade. They can hopefully clear the air about people thinking they came out of Africa to America. We'll get into it. You already know how we do. Let's do some housekeeping first, though. You're checking it early. True King, always in the building. Always in the building. This brother right here, every time I come on, brother be showing love. Appreciate you. Nick, what's good, Nick? Shariri L, always in the building. Pen and pad gang in the building. Pencil and pad gang is in the building. Pencil and pad, pen and pad. Love, Holdings, Vibration Family, pen and paper gang. Hey, pen and paper gang in the building, man. Y'all know when I come on here, go ahead and start taking notes. Get your notepads together. Take notes. A sister tagged me on Facebook the other day. The sister had a whole notebook of just notes from which the lives I was going in. I'm gonna contact that sister, see if I can get a copy of those notes, because I got shitty penmanship. But those notes are crazy. He took really good notes, so definitely take notes, man. Bruce Lee, Karate Chop, always in the building, man. Oh, that's your sister. Okay. Sister L, you got Brother Brown in here. Appreciate you. I'll shade to the Queen. Queen back in here. Queen of Forces Healing Ministries. I love it. I love it. Greetings and blessings to you as well. So, new people in here too. It's Brown. Peaceful greetings. Do me a favor though, man. Like, y'all make sure y'all hit the share button. If you're on Facebook watching this or YouTube, share this shit, man. Click that bell, subscribe, stay tapped in. Luke Cage 209 in the building. What's happening? Information time. You already know what time it is. Yeah, man, look. Mr. Google, let me tell you what happened. I think they just cut my feed. When I went back to see the little bit I did do, it was gone. The video was gone. Like, the whole algorithm ate it or deleted it. I don't know what happened to that last video. But I'm going to do it again, though. I'm going to do it again. That's the Holy War Part 2. And I didn't even get into the Holy War part of it. I was dealing with the indigenous history of America. But I'm going to run it back, though. Peace and light. Ready to learn wisdom. You already know, man. Pen and pad gang in the building, man. What's good? Everybody checking in. Absolutely. Tap in, check in. So look, today's lesson, man. Y'all gotta take some good notes. Take some good notes. Because we're gonna deal with a couple different things. I want to make sure everybody's paying attention. The Atlantic slave trade. Give me a second. Let me pull it up real quick. This is gonna be real simple. I'm gonna ask y'all to keep up with dates. So, first of all, right, you got speaking code always around this shit, bro. But listen. So, for those of you who are taking notes, it should be everybody taking notes. We know we're not here for entertainment value. We're here to learn, right? Everybody taking notes. In your notes, top of your blank piece of paper, put date, D-A-T-E. Put the date. Write the word date across the top of your paper. Right now, please. Blank piece of paper. Date. Right beside the word date, go over a little bit, give yourself a little bit of space, and write location. So you should have date, location across the top of your paper. Now, there's going to be a third category, but we're going to deal with that. Now, it's going to deal with it now. Fuck it. Date, location. In your third column, you're going to write the word who. W-H-O. Who. So you have date, location, and who. The who is going to be the country or the people or a person. That's going to be the who. The date is going to be the date. the location is going to be either North, Central, or South America. Those are the three locations we're going to talk about. So anytime under your location column, I'm going to say North America so you can keep up with where we are. But we can't say all Americas because slavery was not in all the Americas at the same time. This helps us break down how many. That's why you got the number, amount, location, date, who. 3 categories. Now let's go to what we're talking about real quick. This is the Central and South America. This is the Atlantic slave trade, but this is the South and Central America. Check out the years and the timestamps on this shit. So under your time, you're gonna put 1502. This paragraph says between 1502 and 1866, of the 11.2 Africans taken, only 388,000 arrived in North America. The rest went to Brazil, the European colonies, and the Caribbean, and the Spanish territories, Central and South America, and in that order. These slaves were brought as early as the 16th and 17th century. 1502. Now, there were no American colonies established fully to even need the type of slavery that's in your mind with Africans being involved. In the 1500s, there was nothing to do in the colonies. However, we will talk about how Spain and Portugal were already in the Americas, North America, in 1502. So we got the date, the location. Just put North America for this one. Even though it's not North America in 1502, just put North America. They said of the 11.2 million Africans, 388,000. Now, watch this other article I pull up. Now, this said 11.2 Africans were taken. Only 3, not even half made it to North America. Not even half. This is of a span of 1502 to 1866, which is incorrect because slavery was outlawed in 1806. International slavery, 1806. So 1502, they got it in. They being under your who column, you're going to put Spain and you're going to put Portugal. And in a second, I'm going to show you why Spain and Portugal kicked it off, mainly Spain. Now this says between 1502 and 1866, 11.2 million Africans taken, only 388,000 arrived in North America. The rest went to Brazil, the European colonies in the Caribbeans, and the Spanish territories in Central and South Americas, in order that these slaves were brought as early as 16th and 17th century. 16th century is 1500, 17th century. I'm sorry, 16th century is 1500s, 17th century is 1600s. So they're saying between the 1500s and the 1600s, slaves were brought as early as that time frame. From where to where? They're saying from Africa over to Central and South America by way of Spain, Spanish territories. Let's talk about the Spanish territories. How did Spain get those territories? And that's what we're going to deal with real quick. This is how Spain came into those territories. Everything west. Is that west? Everything west of Spain, Spain by default now owns it. Islam, Belarus, Islam, peace and love. Spain now owns all that territory. This is called, write this down on a second piece of paper. Just write that right down. You're going to make a second set of notes. Write down Inter Caetera. Among other works was the Papa Bull issued by Pope Alexander VI on May 4th. So for right now, just write down Inter Caetera, Intercaetera, Inter Caetera. On your first piece of paper, under your location, write Spain again. Under your date column, write 1493. Under your who column, write Pope Alexander VI. So now you have a location, you have a date, and you have a person. And these just basic fundamentals on how we're going to break down how to study so much information in history at one time. Understanding how to study is what I'm teaching. I don't care who put out the most information. The most effective information is what's important right now. This is what makes you a disciple. This is what makes the disciple. So you got the Inter Caetera Convener. What was the Inter Caetera Convener? Let's look at the dates first of all. 1493. What happened in 1492? Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Who gave Columbus the ships to sail the ocean blue? These two right here. Ferdinand and Isabella gave Columbus the ships to come over here. 1492, he comes over here, discovers the gold. Actually, 1489 was the first trip. The second trip was 1492. That's when he brought Ponce de Leon with him. I'm going to show you that in a second. You don't know who Ponce de Leon was. Remember 1493, though. That's an important date because I'm going to show you a couple other Spaniards who came to the Americas. Watch this. And this guy right here was in the Yucatan Peninsula. He destabilized the Incan Empire. These are empires, whole empires over here. But it's best known for his leading first European expedition. The first European expedition deep into territory of modern day United States through, listen to the areas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and likely Arkansas. Those areas right there. They don't mention Louisiana, but those are the territories first explored by Europeans. This was a major site for a lot of wars also, Mississippi River, between early explorers. And I'm giving you like who came up, like there wasn't no 13 colonies yet. Like England is not even involved right now at this point. Right? This is 1500s. I'm gonna show you why Europe was not involved yet. The Soto North American expedition was a vast undertaking and is ranged throughout what is now known as southeastern United States, searching for both gold, which had been reported by various Native American tribes early in the coastal explorers, and for a passage to China. That's what they was looking for in America. This is why he came to America, looking for gold and a passage to China, to Spain. Already in America. There go Louisiana. So they had already been in America. So before we talk about slaves coming on a slave ship, which has already been debunked, People like De Soto was already here exploring, already up through the southeast region, pretty much. That's Spain. We got the Inca Convena written down, 1493. This is how they gained possession of said territory. They being Spain. Spain gained possession in 1493. So up until this point, there is no slaves being traded across the seas at this point. What the Doctrine of Discovery pretty much does, it gave authority to Spanish explorers to basically enslave any of the infidels, anyone who would not convert to Christianity. It said the Papal Bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, and exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the heath of the souls be cared for, the barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. So basically, they've said Christianity or die. This also goes into that whole the Holy Wars segment that I'm already doing. Oh, but everybody get it today though, bro. This is crucial to even understanding how. Now this is 1493, 92. So please write that date down. 1492, Columbus sails the ocean blue. 1493, the Papal Bull comes out, Inca Convena, or basically the Pope Alexander VI saying, go conquer those infidels. The ones who don't believe in Christianity, you can conquer them, exploit them, take their land, rape them, pillage. And part of the hitman hired to do it was those who were associated with what was called the Army of God. Give me a second. These were pretty much like hitmans, hired hitmans. See? Conquistador. What is the meaning of a conquistador? A conquistador is a person who is out to conquer new territory. A conquistador was a name given to 15th, 17th century Spanish and Portuguese soldiers who conquered much of the world, most famously Central and South Americas. Conquistadors. These were the hired hitmen. Knights. Look at that. These were the hired hitmen, killing natives. But they did it behind the Inca Convena that Papal Bull issued by Pope Alexander VI. These are Spanish mercenaries, Spanish Marine Corps, coming on the shores, killing, pillaging. Y'all see that? By the church, the army of God, mercenaries. This is what the natives saw. This is what they saw coming on the shores. See? There was empires over here. They had to come topple the empires. Empires for eons, hundreds of years. Until these conquistadors were sent over here, mercenary killers. These are mercenaries. Get down or lay down. Christianity or die. That's what the Pope said. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage so you guys understand who was first bringing Africans over here. It's not enough just to say Europeans or Europe. We have to identify who was bringing people over here. All right, this says that the transatlantic slave trade can also be understood through its sheer magnitude. For 366 years, European slavers loaded approximately 12.5 million Africans onto Atlantic slave ships. About 11 million survived the Middle Passage to landfall in the Americas. You always have to ask yourself, which Americas did they come to? There's 3 Americas. You have to write that shit down. There's 3 Americas. You just can't say slaves came to America. You have to ask which one did they come to first. And I'm setting out to prove they came to Central and South America. Because I'm going to show you another article where the first Africans come to the shores of North America was 1619. There's only about 30 of them. They came to Hampton, Virginia. And I think Dan Calloway already proved that there were no slave ships. Those are just small cargo ships. Like they're called schooners. The small joints. But it's important that we keep writing down the year, though. If y'all are keeping up with what I'm saying, type 111 in the comments, man. I want to make sure everybody's keeping up with what I'm saying. Because we got a long way to go. Put 111 in the comments if you're keeping up so far with what I'm saying. And we're not even 30 minutes in right now. You have to continuously ask the people who are talking to you about this stuff, about slavery. So ask them, when did they come here? When did they come here? And where did they come to? Absolutely, I'm going to show images, but first we got to teach. I'm going to show the images in a second. The images was keep throwing y'all off. Because I don't think y'all already know what slaves look like. I think y'all attribute the word slave to a whole group of people, just like y'all attribute the word black to a whole group of people that it doesn't even apply to. But yeah, we're gonna show pictures, but first we gotta teach first a little bit. I want you guys to see the years and the dates. I want you guys to learn this stuff. This is not entertainment. If you ever entertain, you gotta go somewhere else. This is a classroom. You gotta take notes, you gotta pay attention. It's gonna be a lot of reading, a lot of words first. Then we get into the pictures. I have a whole lot of pictures to show you, but it's going to make the pictures look different once I explain it. I want to explain it before you see the pictures. So now when you see the pictures, you're seeing what's really there versus what you was told was there. And that helps out a lot in the learning process. So 366 years, it says European slavers loaded approximately 12.5. Keep that number in your mind, in your head. 12.5, it says. 12.5 million Africans onto African slave ships over a course of 366 years. About 11 million survived. Keep that point in mind. Watch this point. Now this one says, for those same 366 years, for those same 366 years, only 11.2 million Africans taken. Only 388,000 arrived to North America. So how many went to the other Americas, I wonder? And what year did those 388,000 come to the shores of North America? And I'm gonna show you why. 2 reasons. The time frame become intricate. Watch this. This is called the prohibition importation of slaves. An act prohibits the importation of slaves into any port or place within the jurisdiction of the United States from and after the first day of January in the year of our Lord 1808. 1808. No more slaves were allowed legally to port into North America. So that's why that question becomes very important when you ask people, when did they come to North America? You have to ask that question. When slaves were brought from Africa, when did they come here? Ask that question. You have to ask that question. When did they get here? I'm gonna show you the ones of 1600s. Don't worry about it. But the ones of 1600 were not doing anything. There were no colonies yet. There were no colonies yet. So let's just keep 1619 in mind and good practice for North America. Let's say Africans came to North America in 1619, Jamestown, Virginia. Keep that on your paper as well, because I'm going to show you what's called the 100-Year Indian War. And those Africans, what were they doing when they were here in 1600? There were about 1 or 2, maybe 3 colonies getting started. William Penn, Pennsylvania was getting started. I think Philadelphia was kind of getting started. Jamestown was just building his first log cabin. What were these Africans doing when they got here in 1600? Now there were Africans here. And I'm going to show you a couple of Africans, one in particular who became a slave master himself from Angola. That's Africa last time I checked. So a couple of Angolan characters we're going to talk about. I think you already know who it is. But his brother was from Angola. He became from being a slave from Africa to being a slave master. So there were people from Africa here, but we're going to find out what were they doing here in 1600s. So we see that importation of slaves were outlawed in 1808. That means nobody from outside of the U.S. could be legally imported into the ports of the United States of America at this point, 1807. None. What else was happening in the 1800s? King Cotton. King Cotton. Let's find another joint real quick. Cotton was popping. And it's a picture that they show of the ancestors out in the field working. Those slaves. No, they at work. Those are farmers. Agriculturalists. Looks like some Caucasians are out there in the field alongside some African Americans. Unless he's just a light-skinned brother. I'm not sure right here. Let's see if we can blow it up a little bit. And be nosy. Oh, nah. That's a brother. These people at work, they have 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 6 horses, 7 horses. This is equivalent to like 3 cars. These are so-called black folks on their own land working. Now, what's going to happen is white people are going to exploit. They're going to exploit these hardworking people. King Cotton is a slogan that is summarized the strategy used before the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, by succession. That's a civil war. The theory held that control over cotton export would make the proposed independent Confederacy economically prosperous, would ruin the textile industry of New England, which is New York, And the most important would force United Kingdom and perhaps France to support the Confederacy military because their industry economics depended on the South cotton. This was an industrial situation. It was all about labor. Who can control the cotton? You don't think for a minute that France and Europe, England was not backing up different entities to take control of this new raw product? The same way they do in Africa. They exploit for the raw product. So this was an opportunity. Cotton's about to rule the world. And basically, the South had signed a contract promising so many pounds of cotton to be exported out of the Americas. This was an economic war. The Civil War was. From an economical standpoint, the emancipation of the West Indies and the general abolishment of slavery was a failure for Britain. And this was one of the reasons why Southerners believed that they were susceptible to changing their minds regarding anti-slavery policy and thus intervene on their behalf. The slogan, widely believed throughout the South, helped mobilize support for secession. In February of 1861, 7 states whose economics were based on cotton plantation had succeeded in the Confederacy. Meanwhile, the other 8 slave states with little or no cotton production remained with the Union. This is about raw product, GDP, gross domestic product. This is all about jobs, job security, exploiting people, low wage workers. I keep saying if the supposed slaves on the plantation had an HR, this would never happen. They didn't have an HR, didn't have an EO department, anybody that could, stand up for equal pay for equal work type shit. So they got exploited by big companies. You don't think the Virginia company had something to do with this? You crazy. The London company, this is the whole fact that the colonists were over here and the colonies in the first place were all about an economic gain for Europe. Spain, economic gain, looking for gold, so on and so forth. Absolutely. You had Moorish conquistadors. Remember, the conquistadors were basically the Spanish army. Spain only had their hands on, let's say Spain, just had got conquered from the Moors in 711. I mean, not in 711. In 1492, 1491, 1490s, when Granada had fell. So a lot of those Moors converted to what's called Moriscos. So a lot of them, that's how they got over here. Absolutely. But 1861, King Cotton. We're still tracking. These people are at work. So now we know 2 things for sure. One, the importation of slaves are outlawed in 1808. So 50 something years after the fact, 1861, this huge thing called cotton becomes a hot commodity. But we can't ship any Africans to America. It's outlawed for North America anyway. Anybody was sneaking and geeking and bringing them over here? Probably, but not in droves, not to pick cotton. And I'm making a distinction because I think we, in our minds, we probably tie in the Atlantic slave trade that they teach us. In our mind, we tie it in to slavery of picking cotton. Some type of way we make the connection of slaves being brought from Africa to the Americas in the 1500s somehow translate pictorial wise to people of color picking cotton. And those are totally different time frames, totally different eras in time in American history. Nothing was happening of substance in the 1700s in America. Remember 1776, America just got its independence, y'all. There was no, you either belonged to the crown or you didn't, or you were native from here. there was no black people, white people. The ideology of it, actually 1789, 1791 is when the term Caucasian itself by Johann Blumenbacher, a German self-proclaimed anthropologist, put the word into place. So that there were no white people, black people. And I'm going to show you why, how the idea of owning people came into existence in the Americas. I think we're confusing servitude and slavery. I think we're confusing the two. But like I said, there were Africans over here during that time frame. But look at the time frame again. This is John Punch, 1605. So now I'm going to show you the couple of individuals who were here from Africa. It wasn't 11 million or 388,000, they say. This is John Punch, born 1605, was an enslaved African who lived in the colony of Virginia. In 1600s, thought to have been an indentured servant. This was a contract. The contract, called an indentured, may be entered voluntarily for the purpose of eventually compensation or debt repayment, or imposed to involuntary. So John Punch, enslaved African under a contract, he attempted to escape to Maryland and was sentenced in 1640 by Virginia Governor's Council to serve. Oh shit! Hold on. To serve. My bad. To serve as a slave for life. This was the first case of somebody being a slave for life. The first case in the American colonies. I'm going to show you something else that happened in the French colonies, in the Spanish colonies, where you were born under the condition of your mother. Your mom was a slave, you was a slave. There was no doubt about it. It says 2 European men who ran away with him received a lighter sentence and extended servitude. For this reason, some historians consider John Punch to be the first official slave in the English colonies. John Punch is the first official slave in the English colonies. An African under servitude or contract was the first one in the English colonies. So under your who, you're gonna write down John Punch. Under when, you're gonna write down 1608, I think it said. 1608. I'm sorry, 1640. 1640. And your location is going to be the colonies. Location going to be the colonies. Not yet. Not yet. Stay with me. We haven't got to vagrancy laws yet. Not quite yet. Remember, the time frame is 1640. I'm going to show you how many colonies there were in 1640. Meaning there was no they're still operating on what's called the Virginia Assembly in 1640, 1608. Remember, the first pilgrims just got there in 1619 to start setting up camps. So there's no government form to start putting laws into place. So the vagrancy laws come a little bit later, around the 1800s. Particularly right after they supposedly freed the slaves in 1865, vagrancy laws started to come into effect, more into effect. But however, there was some laws starting to come shortly after this, and I'm going to show you those laws. But for now, just stick with John Punch being the first slave in the English colonies in 1640. And let's go here. How many colonies were established by 1640? Most of the 13 colonies were well underway, been established their borders, their governments, and their economies. So 1650, not quite got it together yet. Okay, watch this. What was the Virginia Assembly?
According to Wikipedia, the Virginia General Assembly is the legislative body of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the oldest continuous lawmaking body in the Western Hemisphere, the first elected legislative assembly in the New World, and was established on July 30th, 1619.
They were operating on the Virginia Assembly. And the Virginia Assembly delegates mainly are made up from these people right here. Watch this. What is the House of Burgesses? The House of Burgesses was an assembly, of elected representatives from Virginia that met in 1643 to 1776. With its origin for the first meeting, the Virginia Assembly in Jamestown, July 6, 1619, the House of Burgesses was the first democratically elected legislative body in the British American colonies. About 140 years later, when Washington was selected, the electoral was made up of male land owners. And that becomes important about the landowner part too. Hedge rights. White indentured servants who worked 7 years had a right to land, which made them a voting member of the assembly. A voting member, not an actual member of the assembly. This is the House of Burgesses. This is what they were operating under at that time. So no vagrancy laws yet. Let's go back to the to this real quick so we can move forward. Quick summary. Transatlantic slave trade can be understood through its sheer magnitude. 366 years. I just showed you the 366-year mark from the time Spain until 1808 approximately, when they ceased it. I also showed you, well, I haven't showed you yet. Let me see this. Where is it at? Here we go. My bad. Because I want to bring this up while I'm talking to y'all. I don't want no confusion. I want to pull this up so y'all can see it yourself. I want you guys to be able to read this for yourself. I don't want to talk you through it. Simple question. When did slaves come to America? 1619. I just showed you the House of Burgesses and the Virginia Assembly were just meeting to figure out what the fuck and how the fuck really what was going on. 1619, 20 to 30 Africans landed in Port Comfort, Fort Monroe, Hampton, Virginia. That says 20 to 30 people. Not 11 million, not 388,000. 20 to 30 freaking people. That's it. That's it. They were aboard a English privateer ship, the White Lion. Let's take a look at this right quick, so we can start getting a snapshot of what these supposed slave ships look like. Let's take a look at the White Lion. There she goes. This is what they lead y'all to believe the slave ships look like. We have to do a whole other situation about the law. Man, it was sea power was heavy in the 1600s. Who controlled the seas? Spain was ruling the seas with the Spanish Armada I'm gonna show you the Spanish Armada in a second, but these are small little boats, man. They were walking them down in the bow of the ships because that's where the cargo went. So they came over as cargo. 30, 40 of them. Not a whole bunch, a million of them. Just a handful of them. And these individuals right here that came to Virginia in 1619 were not even, they didn't even get them from Africa. They got them from another ship that was in the Gulf of Mexico. But this is the narrative they try to sell you from this image right here. They try to show you these images right here first. Then they'll slingshot your ass into the future. Only to show you some people out in the field working. That's the trick. They'll show you people with dark skin climbing on the ships or being forced onto ships, and then show you the cotton fields right after that. You don't even question the time frame. You don't even think, well, when did cotton start? I just showed you. When did slaves start coming to America? I just showed you. What were happening those 200 and some odd years that they were building the colonies? You think they were sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting to be put to work? No. I'm gonna show you something else. I'll show you something else that was happening. Now remember, we're talking about 1619 up to 1808. It's the time frame we're dealing with. Most of them Europeans who were settling here were too busy fighting. And this is not out west. This is the East Coast. This is the East Coast. 1609 is when they were fighting. So there's a lot going on in the Americas in the 1600s. 1619, the first Virginia Assembly, the House of Burgesses were meeting for the first time to figure out statutes and ordinances and rules and regulations. You had your first 30 slaves on the shore of Hampton, Virginia, from Africa. You still had these Indians, so-called Indians, fighting skirmishes amongst the settlers, pale skin, to push them back, to get them out of the way. The American Indian Wars, also known as the American Frontier Wars and the Indian Wars, two different ones, were initially fought by European states and their colonists in the North America and later the United States government and the American settlers against various American Indians. These conflicts occurred in the United States from the time of their earliest settlement, 1609. From the first time they stepped foot on the shores of Virginia, these Indians were kicking their ass already, fighting. What are y'all doing here? Until the end of the 19th century. The various wars resulted from a wide variety of factors, the most common being desire of settlers and government for Indian tribes and territory land. For Indian tribes' land. The European power in their colonies also enlisted allied Indian tribes to help them conduct warfare against the other colony settlements after the American Revolution, 1776. This is who all fought in those wars right here. This is the population of America at that time. I'm sorry, in 2020, I apologize. It's 2020 census. This is who all fought. The Creek, Cherokee, Lakota, the Miamians, the Swanee, the Wampanoag, Seminole. Keep Wampanoag in mind. I want y'all to keep the Wampanoag tribe in mind right quick. Of course, the Seminoles, Northwest Confederacy, other confederacies up in Canada. This was all fought on their side. The British Empire, the Kingdom of England, the Kingdom of Great Britain, the British American, the United Kingdom, Dominion of Canada, France, Spanish Empire, Kingdom of Spain, Spanish Empire, Kingdom of Spain, Council of Indies, the Royal Council, Dutch, Netherlands, Russia, Mexico, Republic of Texas. All these entities fought against the so-called Native Americans to push back off their land. So this is what was happening in America in the 1600s, the colonial periods to 1774. This is called the 100-Year Indian War. The Algonquin-speaking people, right there in the Algonquins. This is the Indian Massacre of 1622. They make it seem like these Europeans just pulled up, set up camp, shook hands with a couple of Indians, had Thanksgiving, and you had strip malls. No. These Native Americans were fucking them up for over 100 years. Now, I just showed you all the firepower that Europe had. Europe had a lot of firepower. They were backed up by everybody in Europe. The entire UN got together. There was no UN back then, but the entire UN got together to help fight these so-called Indians. That went on as they started passing shit like this right here, the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Whole war going on. Wars, battles going on. And they got you thinking that these Europeans just set up camp, brought a whole bunch of Africans from Africa over here, started growing tobacco and cotton, and we had America. No, there's a whole fucking history behind it that you have to know about first. This is part of it. So all that was going on, 1600s. All that was happening in 1600s. Oh, yeah, I forgot the point I wanted to show you. What was his name? What was his name? Now, the word King Philip will throw you off, have you thinking it was a European, but it definitely was not a European. Write down King Philip's War fought between the colonists in Massachusetts and Connecticut and the Wampanoag Indians. I'm going to show you the Wampanoag in a second. I like to get everybody excited about what people looked like back then and what the original people who were fighting. This is in Massachusetts and Connecticut. This is up north. This is not Alabama, Georgia. This is up north, East Coast Indians, supposed Indians. Metacon. This is who King Philip is, Metacon. And their allies, the Nipmuc, also a so-called Black Indian tribe. Metacon was called King Philip by the colonists. This is the 100-Year Indian War. So this is what was happening. Remember earlier, I showed you the, hold on. So these people right here were fighting all the Indians and natives in Central or South America. These are the real holy wars right here. They were coming to the shores of Central and South America in the 1500s through the 1600s, 1700s, killing all the Native Americans in Central and South America. These are Spaniards, conquistadors. Then in North America, you had the other Europeans, but all in the name of God, though, all in the name of Christ, all in the sign of Christianity, Christendom. This happened. These jokers right here were fighting the so-called native Indians in North America. So between North, Central, and South America, there was an all-out war declared from Europe upon these people who were calling Indians and Native Americans. From the time they got here, early 1500s, 1493, throughout the 1600s, a whole war happening. Central America, South America, and North America were getting their ass tore up. Now, what happened as a result of those individuals in those 100-year Indian wars, now we're going to get to the real slave trade stuff. As a result of that, a lot of them will end up in what's called labor camps. That you're mistakenly calling it plantations. As a result of them losing the 100-year Indian War, even up to the battle of 1812 with General Andrew Jackson, who later helped the Indian Removal Act. The Indian Removal Act got more firepower because James Oglethorpe wanted to clear the Indians off of the land that now called Georgia and push them out of Georgia, push them over to Oklahoma. I showed you earlier what that treaty said. They had the right to do that, to get those natives off the land, kill them, take advantage of them. You know what? I've never heard that point, Antonio, but I'm gonna look into that. The Boston Tea Party was used like a campaign to. It sounds about right. It sounds about right. I'm gonna look into it though. Yeah, the Trail of Tears was the first Great Migration. I think I showed people the other day. Second Great Migration was in the 1920s, and the third one was in the 1960s of so-called Black people moving up north. But the Trail of Tears is also called the first Great Migration. And it happened because of a lot of reasons, political reasons. They lost the war. So a lot of these individuals will end up in what's called labor camps or work camps that you are mistakenly calling them plantations. They're not plantations, they're labor camps. You'll be sent to a labor camp if you lost. A lot of those so-called Native Americans, see, it's slavery, contemporary. In the 20th century, a new category of labor camps developed for the imprisonment of millions of people who were not criminals per se, but politically opponents, opinionated, real or imagined, and various so-called undesirables under communist and fascist regime. Work camps. This is what you saw our people on, labor camps. When they lost the war, the Indian War, they put them in work camps. Help clear the territory for the new colonies. Of course, they're going to show you Europeans in here. But look at the condition of them. Same thing with our people. Prisoners of war who were assigned to work camps in America to clear land, laborious tasks, so on and so forth. Now, that's not to be mistaken for this picture, though. I don't want y'all to think. Don't think this when I talk about work camps. These are not work camps. These people are at work, but they were not forced into work. My bad. That's the thing. These people were not forced into work. The work camps happened way before this. And they will only show you people picking cotton due to the fact that the cotton demand was growing. And these folks could not fulfill their obligation on their contract. But these are not slaves. They're enslaved, but they're not slaves. Enslaved people. This is when the South was booming with cotton. And because they had already outlawed the importation of slaves, I'm going to show you what happened next, or what had to happen next. Because there were not enough laborers. There were more land and more demand for cotton, and we can't bring anybody in from anywhere else. So what America began to do is they began to capture Negroes from the north and bring them down south to work. This is called the Second Middle Passage. Now, what happens is, in theory, they'll try to show you pictures of these photos right here. This is from the second domestic slave trade. These are not Africans on the auction block. These are Negroes who were captured in the Americas. They're from here. This is involuntary servitude. Don't get it twisted. The people being forced on the ships from Africa in these pictures are years apart. Years apart. The internal slave trade in the United States, also known as the domestic slave trade, the Second Middle Passage, was the interregional slave trade, was the merchant trade of enslaved people within the United States. It was most significant after 1808. Remember, they outlawed it when the importation of slaves from Africa was prohibited by federal law. Historians estimate that upwards to 1 million slaves were forcibly relocated from the upper South to places like Maryland, Virginia, and Kentucky, to North Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, and territories, new states of the Deep South, especially Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana. This is the slave trade that most affected you, our grandparents, our great-great-great-great-grandparents. Not the African slave trade. That happened way before this. Years before, a couple hundred years before this happened. I know they show you the African slave trade and they show you Negroes in the cotton fields. Those are two different events. Right. That's the time the breeding camp started. They had breeding plantations shortly after 1808 when they could not bring any more Africans from Africa. Because now it's time to do the real work, which is pick that cotton and tobacco and that rice up in South Carolina. See, the Africans who came in 1600s, they, helped clear some land off probably to get Virginia going. But after 7 years, they were able to own other slaves. These were Africans in the early colonies who had the privilege to do that. I'm going to show you one in particular in a second before we get out of here, from Angola, who was a slave in the Americas who ended up owning other slaves. But these jokers right here in the 1800s were not allowed. They were being captured from the upper South, like Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky, and North Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri. And they were relocated to the Deep South. I want y'all to hear me good. Hear me good. They took Black people from the North and relocated them to the Deep South and forced them to work. This is why Black folks was trying to run back up north to go home, not for freedom. They were from there. They were trying to run back north for freedom. So Negroes running through the woods, going back north, this is this era of time right here. After 1808, not 1708, not 1608. In your mind, they have supplanted in your mind that people coming out of Africa are the same people who inherently had to pick cotton, and they're not the same people. Not even the same story. The domestic slave trade is when they put people on ships, on cargo ships, on those small schooners, and they brought them from places like Virginia, Portsmouth, and they brought them down to Louisiana. It looks something like this. Hold on. We almost done. Hold on. Because see, what you have to realize is there were people already living and thriving, already here. Check this out.
This is a list of goods and sundries. You will take it to be filled and returned immediately. Take your tag. Tell Bartholomew to add it to our debt.
Yes, miss.
Where are you from, Platt?
I told you.
Tell me again.
Washington.
Who were your master?
Master name of Freeman.
Was he a learned man?
I suppose so.
He learned you to read?
A word here or there. But I've no understanding of the written text.
Don't trouble yourself with it. Same as the rest. Master brought you here to work, that's all. Any more, I'll earn you 100 lashes.
He was already there. If you have not seen the movie 12 Years a Slave, 12 Years a Slave movie covers the second Middle Passage, or the domestic slave trade. This is the slave trade that affected your people the most. Not the transatlantic slave trade. Not that one. Not this one. And this is not taking credit from anywhere. Not this one. This is not the one we're dealing with. We're dealing with the domestic slave trade. This is something totally different. In 1806, it got outlawed. Shortly after that, they had to figure out this huge demand for cotton. We got to get some more Negroes here. Whole different society living. Yeah. Oh boy, it's so much, man. Big difference. The biggest difference is this, though. In our minds, they have shown us people out of Africa and then show you the plantations in Georgia. And in your mind, they're the same timelines. And today, I'm telling y'all, they're not the same timelines. Not even the same thing was going on. 1600s, 1700s, there was so much war and skirmish in the colonies. It was unstable to even try to think about putting people to work on anything. Now, the servants they had brought over here for those 7-year contracts, that went the way that went. And I can show you how a lot of those white servants ran down south to Georgia and set up camp in Georgia. They were the first runaways, actually. The white indentured servants, or European indentured servants, were the first runaways. But there was a whole class system already here of free black folks. Let's take a look at this clip real quick.
Pure silk by way of the French.
We were in need of a fresh carry-off.
And keep in mind, this is during
The year has passed already.
the
Up toward
1800s.
Sandy Hill again.
I am.
I have just the thing. Something to suit
I'm gonna
your
point out something to you
style
on this
and yet
movie you may not
sturdy
know
enough
of.
for a 40-mile round trip.
It's beautiful.
At what price?
We will take it. Children.
Two different classes of black people in the 1800s. Notice how the white store owner not calling them niggas, not disrespecting them. In fact, your boy trying to calm his wife down from buying so much of this expensive French material he just put out there. But watch what happens in the scene. And I'm going to explain what's happening as you're watching it.
Children, come see what your father has just purchased for me.
One moment, sir. You'll be assisted.
Mr. Parker.
Now, what just happened just then, the gentleman who just walked in the room, who just walked in the store, these are two different classes of black folks. The guy and his wife in the store represents who are called freedmen, free people of color. And this only goes into my point of showing you that how they show you slavery was happening was not happening that way at all. Even during the height of cotton, even during the height of the Civil War, the height of niggas being lynched and everything, it was not like that. Watch what happens in the store. You have a slave who just walked in the store. He has no civil rights, zero civil rights. He's civil mortu. Civilly, he's dead. The guy and his wife have civil rights for now. Watch this.
Sir, we could discuss the price. Forgive me, Solomon. Mrs. Northup, the customer waits. Welcome, sir.
Shop well, sir, but mind your wallet.
Pay no attention to this gentleman's nonsense.
Yes, sir. My regrets for the intrusion, sir.
No intrusion.
Good day, sir.
What you just saw was a free man addressing a white planter. And the reason Jasper was like, wait a minute, I didn't even know we can do this. These were two different societies of black people in America during the time of supposed slavery. Two different classes, two different associate, just different. So what they show you in pictures and TVs and movies and so on and so forth is the Jasper class of people. It's not talking down nobody. I'm just showing you what they're showing you. They're just only showing you one side of the society during a certain time period. They're only showing you that one side of it. During slavery, or supposed slavery in the South, you have to keep in mind the second domestic slave trade. There was a lot going on, man. Free people of color. It was not how they taught y'all, man. It was not out of picking cotton. Write this down, too. Free people of color. In context of history of slavery in the Americas, free people of color, people of mixed African, European, and Native American descent who were not enslaved. They were not enslaved. However, the term also applied to the people born free who were primarily of Black African descent with little mixture. They were a distinct group of free people of color. They were a distinct group of free people of color in the French colonies, such as Louisiana, the Caribbean islands, San Domingo, St. Lucia's, New Orleans. They were primarily mixed race. Free people developed these colony societies, classified mixed race people in a variety of ways, generally related to the visible features, appropriation of African ancestry. Free people of color. This was in 1764, around 1764, 1796. Free people of color. They're only going to show y'all the underclass, make y'all think that all people of color were slaves. Just like they keep showing y'all these slave ships out of Africa and then show you a cotton field right after that. And you think that shit is all related. Senator Hiram Revels. This was during shortly after the so-called Civil War. He was elected in 1870. 1865, slavery just ended. 5 years after that, you have your first black senator of Mississippi. Hiram Revels. Write them down. Hiram Revels. Write down Hiram Revels. 1870. You know what else great was happening in that time frame too? Mound Bayou, Isaiah Montgomery. 1890. Hold on. I thought I had my screen up. Hold on. There we go. 1870. I showed you 1860. Hiram Revels. Free people of color. That's where the Freedmen's Bureau come from, by the way. The Freedmen's Bureau, that was the free people of color. That was their land. The 40 acres and the mule were only for the freedmen. Not for the enslaved folks. Not for every black people. Just for the freedmen, the landowners, the black landowners. Right now, Isaiah Montgomery, he was the founder of Mound Bayou, 1890. And there's others. There's a couple others. Slavery did not go down the way they told you. Research and look up the second Middle Passage. Second Middle Passage, the forced sale and migration of enslaved people within the United States after the international slave trade ended in 1804. Breeding camps also happened after 1808, where they had to try to breed Negroes. This is the atrocity that happened to your people in North America. This out of Africa picture right here, that's not the second Middle Passage. And remember, these people are just at work. They're working. Enslaved and slaves are not the same. Enslavement is a system. It's a perpetual system. The voyage of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic to the Americas and the Caribbean. The second Middle Passage, the forced migration of slaves from the upper South to the lower South of the United States of America. The second Middle Passage is what you want to focus on, not the transatlantic slave trade. That's not the one for you, okay? Hey, man, it's been real. It's been real cool. Thank y'all for tapping in, man. Be sure to share this shit. Comment, like it. Put it out there. Make it go crazy. Everybody that rock with me on this afternoon delight. I kind of like the afternoon joint. Might keep the afternoons going. 1:30 every day. $1:30 every day. Thanks for rocking with me, man. Appreciate y'all. Nothing but love. Share this shit. Put it out there. Get it out there. M.O.I.